What is going on, everyone? Welcome to another very exciting episode right here on the MIgardener channel. In today's episode, we're going to be answering single-handedly one of the most popular questions that comes into our inbox from gardeners within the city, and that is, what can I do about a garden that's being shaded out by a neighbor's tree? Is there anything that I can do at all? And if so, what can I do? So that's what we're going to talk about in today's episode. Now, if you're someone that lives in the country and you don't have this problem, well, I'm sorry. Good for you. But there's a lot of gardeners that suffer from this, and a lot of gardeners write in because sunlight is the lifeblood of their garden. What can you do if your garden's being shaded out by a tree that's growing in a neighbor's yard? Well, you can't have a garden. What do you do? Well, the first thing you can do is you can move your garden. You can change your garden's location. You can find a community garden. In some instances, there's nothing you can do. In some instances, it's a losing battle because there are certain laws that protect your neighbor's right to have a tree on their property, right? But there's also your right to the sunlight as well. And so there are certain areas where you can take control. There are certain areas where they have control. And if there's no way for you to have sunlight, even after exhausting all of your rights on your property, sometimes the best alternative is to either buy a cheap piece of land that's not shade locked or to go find a community garden that is, that's built to kind of host people just like yourself that have those problems. And so with that being said, let's jump into some of the things that you can do and some of the steps you can take to get what you want, which is sunlight on your garden. All right, so the first thing you can do is having open communication. Now, this seems like the most logical thing in the world, but as a society, we have really just completely forgotten about communication. Having neighbors is something that it can be a really positive thing. And for a lot of people, having neighbors is a positive thing. But I'll tell you what, trees can be a contentious issue. And a lot of neighboring friendships have been strained, if not completely ended, over trees. And that's because there are two camps. There's the camp that loves the sunlight because the sunlight is the lifeblood of a garden. And then there's the camp that loves the shade and privacy because shade and privacy can be a nice thing. And the problem is that when you have two camps that are passionate about something and something in the middle that can be contentious, it is a recipe for disaster. The first reason why you should have communication is because your neighbor might want that tree down, but they don't even have a reason to take it down. There's really no, it's like, well, it's not really about bugging anybody. I could take it down, but yeah, might as well leave it up because, I'll just let it die on its own and we'll let it die. But if you come to them and say, hey, look, this tree is shading out my garden and it's really preventing me from having a garden, they might say, well, I didn't even want it there anyways. Well, let's take it down together and you guys can make a day of it and take it down. Or if it's a big problem or it's a really big tree, they might say, all right, well, let's go 50-50 on a tree company and we'll take it down together. That actually happened, believe it or not, to myself. There was a huge oak tree overhanging our yard and it was starting to die. And our neighbors, they saw me out raking one day and they said, hey, Luke, that tree's starting to die. I'm kind of getting a little bit worried about it, but we don't have the money to necessarily take it down. We called the tree company and they quoted us at $1,100 to take it down. Would you mind going 50-50 in on it? Because it is overhanging your house, and I really hate for it to fall on your house eventually, but I do want to address it. And I said, I've been looking at it overhanging my house as well, and I wouldn't mind taking it down, but obviously it's growing on your property, and I don't want to necessarily overstep and just take it down myself. And they said, let's go in 50-50 on it. So we did. And I didn't have to go in 50-50, but obviously being a good neighbor, I got what I wanted and they got what they wanted. And it was great. We had open communication and we got to keep our neighborly friendship, which is awesome because they're great people. They're very, very nice people. And so, that was something that we had through communication. And then, the third thing you can get through communication is you can come to an understanding. You can come to an agreement because there might be an instance where you have a branch overhanging your garden and they want the shade and you might be able to point up, and if you can pinpoint a branch that's causing a lot of shade to your garden, you may be able to say, hey, I know you really want the shade. Through having this communication, obviously you really want the shade, but you see this shadow, it's really preventing me from having a garden. And I was just wondering if maybe we could just take that one branch down, just that one branch. And what you'll have to learn is that there's two answers they can give you. It's going to be yes or no. And the worst thing that's going to happen is they're going to tell you no. If they tell you yes, congratulations, you got what you wanted and you came to an agreement. They got to keep their shade, you got to get your sunlight, and no one was harmed from it. You came to an agreement. But if they say no, hey, that's the worst that's going to happen. You don't have to throw fists. You don't have to get up and scream, because at the end of the day, it's their tree, it's their property, and it's their right to have it. So you just got to kind of understand that, know what battle is worth having, because there's some battles you're not going to win. All right, and the second thing you can do is take matters into your own hands. You see, at least in Michigan law, and I'd encourage you guys to read up on your own local and state laws, because they do vary from state to state, but in Michigan, you have what's called aerial rights to your home. And that means from the property line up extending about 25 feet, you have the right to anything encroaching on your property that is not on your property, that you want on your property. And so whether that's a tree, whether that's someone spying on you with a drone, you have the right to your property. And unless, of course, there's an easement from like a utility line, which we do have utility lines, that is an easement granted to the utility company. But other than that, you have the right to take it down. And so in the case of this scrub maple here, we're taking it down because it's growing on our neighbor's property underneath our fence, and it's causing a huge issue. And we can take matters into our own hands. It doesn't matter what they think. It doesn't matter how dumb it's going to look. It doesn't matter at all, frankly. And that's just because, well, number one, I've asked them to take it down 3 or 4 times, and they haven't wanted to take it down. And it also is becoming super obnoxious in our yard. It looks really ugly in our yard, and I just don't want it. So we're going to take matters into our own hands, and you can do that too. Always give a little bit of margin of error, because if you cut branches onto your neighbor's property, they have to be overhanging your property line. What I would suggest doing is I'd suggest, if possible, getting like a laser, right? Getting a laser and putting it on your property line straight up, and then marking that point so that you do not cut anything on your neighbor's property, because that's a great way to end up in jail. All right, so we're gonna take these out here because these are annoying. Oh, these scrub maples are just horrendous. I can't stand them, and it's time that they come down. You guys have been commenting about them for months, and I'll tell you what, enough's enough. These are coming down. And to be honest, our neighbors on that side of the fence, we never really talk to that much. I've asked them to take them down numerous times, but we don't have a very close relationship to the point where he's probably not going to care either way. But I can safely say I've asked him probably 3 times to take them down, and he hasn't really wanted to. So because they're on my side of the property, overhanging my garden and shading out my afternoon sun, well, they're going down. All right, whew, much better. Now I will say, the ones on his side of the fence, those are ones I can't take down. I have to be completely okay with that. If I ask him, hey, can I come onto your property and take those down? Then you can. That's good communication. But again, he's not very responsive. He doesn't really care at all. So not really gonna be worth my efforts. But those ones on his side, those are just a lost cause. But I did get this all cleaned up, and I'm gonna get the ones down there cleaned up now because there's more of them. All right. Whew. It's gonna look so good with these scrub maples down. My goodness. Ugh. Ooh, I might need a saw for these ones. These suckers have been growing for like 3 years. Ooh, very nice. Very nice. I'll tell you what, these Fisker's loppers are something else. Oh man, they make a good quality lopper. Wow. They say they can cut something up to 1.5 inches in diameter, and they easily just cut something that was like 2.5 inches. All right, all this crap is coming down. My goodness, what a mess. This is all elderberry. So even though elderberry is an edible fruit, I don't want that edible fruit on my property because they are weedy, very weedy. If you guys have ever grown elderberries, you'll know. It's a nice plant to have in the country with lots of space. Not great to have in the city with limited space because they will take over. Might be nutritious and beneficial, but wow, it is a tangled up weedy mess. and it created so much shade. Oh my gosh. I'll tell you what, my pepper bed produced probably half of what it should have this year because the afternoon sun was being completely shaded out. All right, and you better believe I'm gonna be taking advantage of that aerial space. I'm clipping anything that is on my property. These trees they're very large. All right, again, I'm just drawing that line straight up, and that one is overhanging. This one is overhanging here. Oh, I hope I don't seem too petty by doing this, but I'll tell you what, it is something I do not want on my property. Sorry, not sorry. Okay, well, there we go. There we go. That's about all I can take right now. So the rest is on his property. So there you guys go. There is a super simple guide on what to do when your neighbor's trees are overhanging and shading out your garden. I hope you guys enjoyed. I hope you learned something new. And again, I want to put a massive asterisk at the end of this video that please, please, please look into your local and state laws when it comes to your property rights, because they can differ from location to location. And I don't want to be responsible for you ending up in jail because you're taking the taking the vigilante route and and putting some vigilante justice on those trees that are causing you pain and torment. So just look into it. It takes only a couple minutes, or you can even call your local municipal office, and they should be able to tell you what your rights are when it comes to trees overhanging your property. It's very, very simple. So I hope you guys enjoyed. I hope you learned something new. If you did, make sure to throw a thumbs up. Also, hey, I'm not all for taking down trees, but the trees that were causing me torment, I think that deserves a thumbs up. That looks so much better. So much better. So I hope you guys enjoyed. Hopefully you learned something new. And as always, this is Luke from the MIgardener channel, reminding you to grow big or go home. And we'll catch you guys later. See ya. Bye.